What's going on, everyone? My name's Eric, and I just wanted to hop on here and say a few things as we wrap up the year. First things first, I want to just say I hope you've all enjoyed your holidays, however you choose to spend it with those around you. Secondly, I want to say thanks to everyone who's supported the channel, who's watched the videos, subscribed, all of that good stuff. We've really grown this channel, we've grown the community, and honestly, it's all thanks to everyone who's actually watched and subscribed and everything like that, and commented, engaged, whether it's on here or all of my other social media platforms. And it really would be different if we didn't have all of you watching and commenting, liking, subscribing, and just engaging and building this community that we have, as it really means a lot to me that you enjoy the things that I make for all of you, and hopefully that you're learning from the things that I put out for all of you. And the last thing that I want to cover as we wrap up the year is kind of like my whole 2023 gear collection and everything like that. I know there's a few other people that do it online as well, and I figured I would hop in and showcase a lot of the gear that I use on a day-to-day basis. And that goes with saying maybe I should kind of reconsider certain buying habits, but I don't know, new gear day is always fun. Anyways, let's get to guitars. This is a 1980s, the late 80s, Charvel 475. I'm not sure if it's the deluxe or anything, but this one has the iconic toothpaste logo, and it's just so 80s. Desert crackle finish, like original Jackson pickups and everything, because actually Jackson made some really quality pickups back in the 80s and the 90s. And this guitar is honestly just so sick. I've had this for a good chunk of time now, and it's honestly just one of my best playing and sounding guitars. It's very unique and very versatile. The electronics are very interesting too. And yeah, this thing is just rips. You know, it's in great condition too. If you can get a guitar from the 80s and it actually has like an original like crackle paint job and everything, like it's just so right to me. It's just so 80s. And yeah, I love this thing. I really haven't done too much with this guitar on the channel. Like, it was been in a couple of videos, but I've never really highlighted it. So maybe I'll do that in the new year. But yeah, super sick. Lots of mojo on it. I really dig it. And why don't we just hear this thing? Next up is a guitar that you are probably familiar with. This is my Fender Jim Root V4 Jazzmaster, and you might remember I released a video on this guitar a little while back, and I was honestly less than impressed with some of the issues that came with this guitar from factory, and they weren't dialed in by the music store, or even just like from general factory QC and everything. But I mean, we dialed those out, got all those issues figured out, and this guitar is like really solid. Neck's a little bit on the thicker side, but I'm sure that's what Jim likes, and honestly, like, this neck feels really great to me. I like different neck shapes, as I've said in many videos. So the neck is honestly a nice change of pace, especially when I'm used to playing very thin guitar necks and everything. This thing's just like a great vintage modern metal machine. And that's pretty well how Jim Root specs out all of his signature guitars for the most part. And you know, we got the traditional Bones Jazzmaster body, maple neck and everything. Although there's a ton of really great modern features on this guitar, you know, especially with like the hardtail bridge, active pickups, we got the lumen lace side dots on the side, locking tuners, we got the little bit of a smaller headstock. I would have liked to see the big 70s style headstock like there is on his signature Stratocaster, but maybe that'll get changed down the road. But you know, all in all, after dialing out all the issues, this guitar is super sick. And as you're gonna hear in just a second, this guitar is so chunky and so beefy, and it lends itself just to writing some awesome riffs. And keeping with the theme of vintage modern, we have my LSL Adam Christensen baritone Telecaster guitar. This is Adam Christensen from Architect's signature guitar, and I'm not sure if this model is still being produced because he's not with LSL anymore. Although, if you're not familiar with LSL guitars, they are based out of California in the United States. I do have an affiliation with LSL guitars, and essentially they have a lot of these traditional designs, but they kick them up so many different notches. As you can see here, although it looks very traditional in terms of the body and the overall aesthetics, we do have a lot of modern appointments. We got humbuckers, we got the hardtail bridge, push-pull coil split and everything. We got the roasted maple neck, locking tuners, ebony board stainless steel frets, and this guitar is so sick. And it's honestly one of my favorite guitars to play because it is so resonant. It's extremely light as well. I'm pretty sure this is a swamp ash body. It's so resonant, it's loud, and this guitar sounds so amazing plugged in and unplugged. LSL actually does a really good relic job as well. This is a very light relic, although they do offer many different styles and levels of relicing on your guitar, so you can have something that's fully reliced out or something a little bit more subtle like you're seeing on screen right now. But yeah, I love this thing. There's a ton of mojo on it, and I always look forward to playing this guitar because it inspires so many unique songs and riff ideas that I generally wouldn't come up with because this guitar is just so different from what I'm used to. Now, keeping with the theme of LSL guitars here and taking traditional shapes and kicking them up a notch, this is another LSL Adam Christensen signature baritone guitar, which is very different but also pretty similar to the last baritone guitar that I showed you on screen. Obviously the big changes here, like this is extremely modern. We got the nice flame maple top here, and the top and the figuring on this guitar is absolutely insane. So like if you're considering LSL guitars, just know you're gonna get crazy levels of wood in your guitar if you so choose to. And in my opinion, these are on par with PRS 10 tops with the level of detail and figuring that comes with the cut of wood that LSL uses on their guitars if you want a nice piece of flame maple or whatever kind of wood you would like on top of your guitar. And just as the last guitar and essentially all of my LSL guitars, roasted maple neck, so great for overall like neck stability and tuning stability, stainless steel frets. I've honestly had to do nothing to this guitar. Like this guitar just works from the factory. It sounds amazing. LSL makes their own pickups, and it just feels good. The neck is one of my favorites. This is a D-shaped neck, and the middle on this neck is kind of flattened out, but the sides are a little bit round. And I honestly remember getting this guitar and opening it and like playing it and like actually putting my hand on the neck and just being blown away of how comfortable this neck was. Like, and every time I grab this guitar, I'm honestly just still blown away and still surprised of how great this guitar feels. So again, if you are considering LSL guitars, you can get very vintage and sort of vintage modern, as I showed with the last guitar, but you can also get extremely modern with this guitar here. And as you're gonna hear, this guitar sounds so good. And now let's change it up a bit. Let's add a few more strings. And as you can see here, this is my brand new Ormsby Hype 8 guitar. This was originally Andrew Bain's guitar. This is the guitar that Andrew used for pretty well all of his Doom Eternal OST songs. And yeah, this thing is pretty sick. As soon as Andrew said that he was gonna maybe let this thing go, I'm just like, well, let me know. And eventually that day came, and I am very pleased with this guitar. And I'm really looking forward to actually spending more time with it over the holidays and actually writing more with this for you guys. But yeah, stay tuned for a full demo that's gonna be coming after the holidays. To say the least, I'm very, very impressed with how this guitar plays and sounds. Alright, now this guitar is actually very special and very important to me because this is my very first 8-string guitar, and this is one of the older Schecter C8 blackjacks. This one actually has the 26.5-inch scale. I actually really like the scaling, but this guitar was essentially my main guitar for my band back where I grew up and everything, called The Vilification. I used this on pretty well everything that we did, and that was honestly my first band as well with my best friend. But essentially when we started tuning down even lower and lower, It just turned into like, well, why would I want to buy a 7-string when an 8-string is already like set up from factory in F sharp? And essentially being one of maybe 2 or 3 people in my hometown who had an 8-string, you know, middle of nowhere kind of deal, like trying to find strings and figure out how these whole things worked. It was kind of like, get the guitar and, well, figure it out. So, and because I had to essentially just figure it out on my own, like, there's been a ton of miles thrown on this guitar. The bridge actually has a couple wear spots. You could see, because this is a satin finish, essentially where I've swat all over the guitar here and everything. The fingerboard definitely needs a really good hydration and really good cleaning to get all those finger marks out of it and everything. But honestly, this guitar has never let me down. It sounds fantastic, it plays great. The only thing I can really complain about this guitar is that the upper fret axis for like frets 23 and 24, you know, you gotta kind of arch your hand a little bit just to really get in there by comparison to some modern 8-strings that we have. But I'm pretty sure Schecter has figured that out to make that upper fret axis way more accessible. But yeah, tons of mojo on this guitar, tons of miles on this guitar. I think I'm honestly going to bring this guitar back to life. You know, I'll work on a video next year and get this guitar into that original tuning, and maybe with all that in mind, this is going to maybe inspire something new for that project. And now here we have my made in Japan Ibanez 2228. This is the very first production 8-string that hit the market back in around 07, I believe. This guitar is actually from 2007. This is the first year of them. This one also has the original Ibanez headstock design. I'm not really sure how Ibanez headstocks for their 8-strings have changed since then. So if you are a big Ibanez 8-string fan and you can tell us the difference in the comments below, that would be fantastic. Although I remember when I was younger and actually saw this guitar come out into production, and you know, I was thinking about getting an 8-string and everything like that, and even just getting an extended range guitar in general, there was a lot of people like on 7-string forum and all the different Facebook groups and everything just saying, get a used Prestige if you want like a killer guitar. Then I'm thinking, yeah, okay, whatever. And I also never really played Ibanez guitars back in the day because they didn't really do much for me aesthetically, so I really wasn't drawn towards them to go buy these guitars. And even when I saw this guitar get released and brand new, this guitar was very expensive. And even on the used market, I'm pretty sure they are holding their value pretty well. So when I got the opportunity to actually buy this guitar, like used, and I got an incredible price on this guitar because it kind of was a husk. So I threw it together and everything, and then rewired it and did that whole video and made it the Justin Lowe tribute guitar. And I then understood why everyone was saying get a used Prestige, because this guitar is absolutely insane. You know, and after playing this guitar for a bunch and getting it back to life, this is honestly probably my best playing and sounding 8-string guitar. And it just goes to show you that Ibanez knows what they're doing, and especially when they are throwing in unconventional specs, you know, like with these EMG pickups and this old school bridge design here. They know what they're doing, and especially when Meshuggah probably had a good hand in actually helping design this 8-string. Yeah, those guys know what they're doing too. The only thing I really don't like about this guitar is the bridge design, and I know Ibanez owners actually had some issues with this bridge, and Ibanez actually had to fix a lot of those bridges and the bridge designs, which they then changed out many years later for just a traditional like hardtail bridge. But yeah, I'm gonna pretty well echo everyone on 7-string forum and just say if you are looking for an extended range guitar, just get a used Prestige, because that's where it's at. And you guys here all know this guitar. This is my Wild Audio Warhammer guitar. This is the Zach Wild signature guitar from his own signature brand, Wild Audio. And this is the shape that he's using with the Pantera Celebration for the most part. I know he has a few other designs here, but this is the one, you know, this is the one that he started the entire Pantera Celebration with when they played in Mexico last year. And yeah, this guitar, like after I found one and after I saw Zach was playing these on stage, I'm like, I need to get one of these things. Shout out to Alex and Cam for helping me get this guitar, and yeah, this thing's sick. Big fat neck on this thing, you know, big obnoxious like graphics and like the big inlays and everything. Floyd Rose EMGs, it's very Zach, and this thing is just so sick. This guitar was discontinued for quite some time, but the shape is now back, and there's a couple other like Norse like Viking designs that come with this guitar, and I really like that one because it actually looked very similar to what Zach is actually playing with the Pantera Celebration. It's made under Schecter guitars and distributed through them, so you got that amazing Schecter build quality with these guitars. They don't skimp out, they're really good, and they're honestly way better than the old Epiphone Zach Wild guitars that were released back when Zach was with Epiphone and Gibson. So yeah, this thing's sick, and let's see, hopefully I can get another one at some point. Alright, now let's check out something a little bit more traditional and very fancy as well. This is my PRS 10-top Custom 24. This is probably one of the nicest tops I've ever seen on a guitar, just in general. And like, look at this paint job. Like, obviously you can imagine why I'm drawn to this guitar, but even like aesthetics aside, when I play chords on this guitar and when I just play this guitar in general, it is so resonant and so rich sounding. Like, this is probably one of the best guitars I actually have in my collection, one of the best sounding guitars. Something that's just gonna sound great for so many different applications in here. I'm gonna do a little bit of TLC on this guitar over the holidays, and I will do a full-on video, as this guitar definitely needs to be showcased, as it is so amazing and so versatile. Yeah, these things are super sick. If you do find yourself wanting one of these guitars, and if you can find one on the used market, if your budget doesn't account for buying a brand new guitar, grab this thing. This one has been toured, and I'm totally fine with it being toured. There's a couple dents on it and everything, but that's not affecting how great this guitar plays and sounds. Now let's keep with the theme of green here, and this is my LSL Custom XT4X in kind of like this dime slime finish here. This one actually has a roasted maple fingerboard. As you can see, there is actual flame in the neck and in the fingerboard here. Like, just going back to what I said earlier about LSL guitars, the cuts of wood that they use on their guitars is just insane. This guitar is actually my very first custom guitar that I ever ordered, you know, something that I designed like with my artist rep at LSL Guitars. The top on this guitar is actually not maple, it's actually flamed European ash, which is actually very cool. Something very outlandish and something that I haven't really experienced with. And this guitar also has Seymour Duncan Jupiter pickups, which is literally my favorite pickup right now. That's excluding the dime bag pickups that are proprietary to that wheelhouse. But if we're just talking general humbuckers, I kind of wish every guitar of mine had these pickups because they are so good. But I also love every guitar having its own unique sound, although if I am looking to get something that is just going to cover so many different grounds of metal and the guitar maybe needs a pickup upgrade, these are the pickups to get in my opinion. And shout out to Wes for actually making these pickups, because man, you nailed it with these things, they rip. We got the tremolo in the back here, you know, just to lock the trem, and if you want to learn how to install this, I got a video on my channel that goes over that. Look at that back cutaway too, just insane. You know, there's no real restrictions on this guitar. This is made to be played, this is made to be ripped on, and it has a good amount of miles on it, and I'm looking forward to putting many more miles on this guitar. Now at this point, let's move over to some of my more special guitars. Now this is a Washburn Culprit. This is a Dimebag Darrell signature guitar. This guitar actually has no markings of Dimebag Darrell's name or like signature on the guitar. This was kind of designed and, you know, thrown into the wild and just said like, let's see what happens. This was Dimebag's first original guitar design back when he joined forces with Washburn in 1994, and this guitar is a very first year production from 1998. I got a full video on the channel that goes over this guitar and the history of the Washburn Culprit, but Essentially, this is only one of 52 examples in red that are in the entire world. I know Dimebag has a few at his house, but I don't know what kind of finishes that he has. Although I remember when I first saw this guitar online and when I was young and I couldn't believe like what kind of guitar this was. Never seen anything like it before. You know, I grew up seeing the Washburn D3s, the DMLs, the Washburn Stealths, and this one was always kind of like the weird unsung here. I remember when I found this guitar used, and I remember like losing my mind because I'm like, I could not believe that there was one in the wild, especially like up here in Canada. Asked the guy if he would ship it, and you know, I was really hesitant, especially because lots of people don't really like shipping guitars. They don't like dealing with damages, or maybe the guitar getting lost or something like that. The owner said they would ship it, and here we are. Like, it's very different from the other Dimebag guitars that I own, and just general Dimebag guitars, especially with, you know, design choices and everything like that. But yeah, this is probably my favorite Dimebag shape, and I really hope to see this guitar shape come back one day, as it is so unique, and there's no one else really doing anything like this. Alright, now this is one of my childhood holy grail guitars. This is a 2005 Made in America Dean from Hell. This is limited to 150 units, and this was only made for the 2005 and 2006-ish model year, depending on when the guitars were actually completed. And this guitar was actually supposed to be a signature guitar for Dimebag when he rejoined Dean Guitars back in 2004. Although this guitar was never released as a signature guitar due to Dimebag's unfortunate passing in 2004, and this guitar would then turn into more or less a tribute guitar. Guitar came with a certificate of authenticity, and this is essentially a modern replica of Dimebag's original 1981 Dean ML, which is also the Dean from Hell, as you can see here. This guitar is just so special, and like, you know, there's a lot of guys who will just say like, oh, those early like 05 Dean from Hells are super special, and if you know, you know, like these things are very, very special guitars. There's a lot of magic and there's a lot of history behind these guitars, especially when they were released and due to the circumstances that they were released in. And even these early Deans, as I keep saying, the early USA ones, the early Korean, the early import ones, they're so special, they're so magical, they just play good, they sound amazing, like, yeah, you really can't beat them. So if you do get the opportunity to actually get your hands on an early 2000s like Dean guitar, whether it's import or USA, go ahead and grab one. Yeah, this is really one of my favorite guitars, and I'm really happy to have found this guitar and really kind of made my young self really happy by actually finding this guitar and putting it in the collection. Alright, now this guitar is one of my favorites here. This is a guitar that actually gets a lot of playtime. This is my Washburn D3 Dime Slime here. This guitar was actually rebuilt. I covered it in a video that I did a while back on this guitar. This guitar was smashed into literally 3 pieces, and I honestly don't know why you would do that to this kind of guitar. My friend Chris actually rebuilt the guitar, and he actually redesigned the neck. He actually had the fretboard made from the company that made the fretboards for Washburn. It was communicated to me and the original owner that this guitar was maybe owned by Billy from Biohazard, but it seems like that's not the case. I mean, I could be wrong. Hard to say, but anyways, this guitar is a pretty sweet guitar here. The neck's a little bit thicker than what I'm used to on these Dimebag guitars as it was rebuilt. Although this guitar still feels and sounds really awesome. Kind of like a weird big Explorer Les Paul, if you will, since the neck is a little bit bigger. And since I've owned this guitar for quite some time, I went down the rabbit hole really to figure out what this guitar is all about, because these Washburn D3s have actually changed throughout their years of production, and I really want to cover all of that in a video to show you guys what they're all about, what the design choices are, and how they've changed throughout the year, and maybe figure out what year this guitar actually is. Because as I said in an earlier video about this guitar, I thought it was made in 1997. It was communicated to the original owner that it was made in 1997, but after some digging and some research, it's definitely not in 1997. So stay tuned for that, and that'll be up at some point next year. here it is. This is a guitar I still can't believe I honestly own. And this is something I've been searching for so many years, and I just can't believe I actually have it. This is my 1999 Washburn D3 Dime Slime in my favorite finish, you know, the Dime Slime, and it's signed by all 4 original members of Pantera. And I remember when I first bought my original like Washburn 333 Slime, you know, the import version, which is the more affordable version by comparison when they were all brand new. And I remember telling myself, like, the only way I'm going to get rid of that guitar is if I'm going to find a USA Dime Slime. And here it is. It's like, that's the only reason I got rid of this guitar, is because I found literally the guitar I've been searching for my entire life pretty well. I remember looking for like 12 or like 10 years just to find this thing. They never popped up, and I kind of lost hope, you know, at one point. Then the opportunity came up to actually buy this guitar here, and I was like, well, it's kind of now or never, you know, especially if you really want them. It seems like they're just getting harder and harder to find. They're getting more out of reach for a lot of us. Like, the prices aren't really going down, so if you do want one, like, just know they are going to be expensive, but like, this is a pretty insane guitar here. Like, the quality of wood that Washburn was using to make these guitars is just unreal. Like, the flame on this thing is insane. And my very good friend Scott Bino, who's actually owned a ton of dime bay guitars, actually showcased it in his video with his 1999 Slime as well. Just the tops on these guitars are just insane, with the late 90s, early 2000s Washburn Custom shop. Just out of this world. Like, the neck on this guitar is so comfy. It's a really nice V-shaped neck profile here. Really great cut of rosewood on the fingerboard here. And even though I see this guitar on my wall every day and I'm like holding it, and like, I'm still in disbelief that I own it, because this is like literally the white whale. This is something I've been searching for my entire life, and I just can't believe I own this thing. And these guitars are on the expensive end, so if you do want one, just prepare for that. But if you do end up getting one, you're gonna be really happy with yourself. And last but not least, we have some basses here. We're gonna get through these guys really quick. We got my 2008 made in Japan Fender Jaguar bass, and these made in Japan Fenders are just absolutely out of control. The only thing I've really changed on these are the actual pickups. I went for some DiMarzio pickups. As the original Fender ones, they were pretty noisy. It's just the nature of the beast when you're running single coil pickups or just jazz pickups in general. They are a little bit noisy, so I have some stacked pickups here just to get rid of some of the noise. I use it to cover a lot of the Glassjaw songs that I've covered on my channel as well. Bass sounds great for so many different genres, and this was honestly like kind of my first really quality bass. I've had some nicer basses since I've owned this one, but even though I've sold those ones, like, this one is one that has actually stayed for a long time, and I'm really happy that I still have it. It's a fantastic bass. I've played a lot of Fender guitars from Japan. Honestly, a lot of them are probably better than the USA guitars in my opinion. So if you do find yourself wanting something traditional and you can find one of these made in Japan Fenders, definitely go grab one. And last but certainly not least, this is my Dingwall NG2 5-string, the Nolly signature. And this is kind of like the bass of all basses. This is the main bass that I use with my band Neck of the Woods, and this thing is literally everything and more that I could ever want out of a modern metal-focused bass guitar. The fan fret design is actually really comfy and really easy to get used to on this bass. The dark glass preamp just sounds insane. It's kind of like the gold standard for metal bass tones these days. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to mess this up. Like, if you want a modern metal bass, like, this is the one that a lot of people buy that gets replicated for a lot of the virtual instruments and everything. Like, there's a reason that Dingwalls are kind of the #1 choice for metal bass players. And honestly, this bass has literally never let me down. The only thing I've changed on the guitar is literally just putting strap locks on, and I use a little bit of thicker strings just for the way I tune in my band Neck of the Woods. If I had to just keep one bass, this is probably going to be the one, because this is one that just is with me all the time. I kind of gravitate towards it for most things that I do, and especially when I'm playing live, like, this is my main bass. Yeah, this thing's awesome. I love it. It has a lot of miles on it, and I'm hoping to throw some more on in the new year. Alright, now into the studio. Let's check out some amps and other goodies here. First up, we got the Funkos up here, you know, just for a little bit of fun. And now let's move down to the amplifiers here. This is my Mesa Boogie Mark V. This is from 2011. And this one has been my go-to amp for such a long time at this point. I've used it for countless live shows, and it's honestly just so versatile, and it's so killer. I got EL34s in it. I really like how the amp reacts with EL34s, especially when you put an extended range guitar or a baritone guitar through this. EL34s really makes that low-end register really come to life. Next up, we got this guy down here. This is my 2009-ish or 2010 Mesa Boogie Road King Mark II. This amp actually sounds a little bit different compared to the other rectifiers from the rectifier series. I remember Kyle Bull was actually talking about it on his channel, and even with my own experience with the rectifier line, I really found that the Road King stood out way more than the dual and the triple rectifier did to my ears. And that's just me. You might get different mileage, and you guys might have different tastes when you're plugging into rectifiers and everything like that. But this amp just kind of speaks to me. It's a fantastic amp. Not to mention there's a lot of really great sounding guitar tones that are recorded with a Road King or with a rectifier in general. Next up, we got a 5150 Iconic, and honestly there's not a lot to say about this thing. It's awesome. It's a great amp, especially if you're on a budget and if you want a solid metal guitar tone, and especially an amp that can do a lot of other sounds as well. I know this amp definitely got some mixed feelings when it was first released, especially since it only has 2 preamp tubes. Definitely mess around with different cabinets because this amp comes to life when you throw a different cab on it. But yeah, otherwise, fantastic amp. You don't really need an overdrive for this thing. It's literally good to go right out of the box. Lastly, in terms of the big tube amps, we kind of got my big old flagship Rev Generator Mark II 120. This one actually has a mix of 6L6 and KT88 tubes. I remember when I ordered it, I wanted to try something a little different, and I really like how that tube combination sounds, to be totally honest with you. You got 4 channels on this amp with all the bells and whistles you could ever want. This is the Mark II version, as I just said, so it doesn't have the built-in noise gate or the built-in 2 notes captor technology. And even though this amp doesn't have those features, I'm not about to sell this thing and anything and get the new amp just because it has a few new features. This one makes up for it in so many different ways, as this thing sounds killer. Although if you do want me to do a deep dive on these amps and see what they're all about and everything like that, let me know in the comments below, and maybe I will do that in the new year for all of you guys, especially if you are tube amp fanatics. And all those tube amps are then going into my 2 notes captor, and that's going straight into my audio interface. The last little amp that I use is actually my Seymour Duncan Power Stage 700. This is a great amplifier that's honestly just light and loud. It's great for the pedal board rig. It's great for the modeler rigs. Really can't beat it. It's like 6 pounds, 700 watts, and it sounds awesome. I really like how there's tone controls on the front of this amp, so then you can actually dial in your rig a little bit more, especially when you're changing guitars and if they're changing sounds between the instruments. So yeah, really great unit, and yeah, it doesn't take up a lot of space, which I also really like. We then got the Dimebag rig pedal board down here for all those authentic Pantera tones. Got a couple cabs down here. We got the Krankenstein cab, the Dimebag signature. Got my Rev cab up here. This one's loaded with warehouse guitar speakers. Got the stock EVH EL34 cab, and we have a smaller Mesa Traditional 412 here. And that's going to do it for today's video on the holiday 2023 gear wrap up and everything like that. As I said throughout the video, if you want to see me do some more gear related content on the channel, maybe some deep dives on amp demos, show a few more guitars and maybe do a deep dive on them as well, let me know in the comments below of what you would like to see, and I will definitely throw those into consideration for the new year. It should also be mentioned that every guitar featured in today's video was strung up with strings from today's sponsor, the String Source. And if you haven't heard of the String Source guitar strings, I've talked about them many times on my channel, but essentially they are packaged as balanced tension string sets. And if you're new to balanced strings, essentially what that means is that every string on the guitar, from the very first string to the last string on your guitar, is going to be pulling the same amount of tension between every string, and every set of strings from the String Source are optimized for certain guitar tunings based on the packs that you buy. If you want to learn more about String Source guitar strings and balanced tension guitar strings, click the link below, and if you want to try a set of those String Source guitar strings, make sure you use my discount code MRTNTSS at the checkout for a bit of a discount on your next order with the String Source. And once again, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to everyone who's watched the channel and who's kind of built the whole community around this. It should be noted that I owe a lot to the community that watches the channel and everything like that, and especially since you've helped grow the channel so much. So thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. We've had a great 2023. Looking forward to a great 2024 and making lots of new content for you all, and obviously getting some new gear, which we will then be highlighting on the channel as well. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see me do this maybe on an annual basis, let me know in the comments below, because I had fun making this, and if you enjoyed watching it, I would love to know that as well. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Tons more gear related videos and guitar related videos, and if you really love what I do, hit that notification bell so then you don't miss a single video that I upload. Thanks for checking this video, and I will see you